Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
Hello and welcome to Popternative. This is the podcast and talk show where we have digital discussions, the worlds of TV, film, news, pop culture, animation, everything really depending on the guest. We talk about it all. As always, I'm your host, Peter Remoliotis. On social media, you know me as PD Beats. My guest is a comedian, voice actor, does a lot of really cool things. She does the voice of Jessie in Solar Opposites. Season 2 will be launching on Hulu March 26th. Mack is with us. Mary, welcome to Popternative.
Thank you, and thank you so much for that was a great intro. Like that was almost a tongue twister intro.
You do a lot of interviews and you kind of get used to it. But thank you so much for being here. I know we've been wanting to do this for a while, so I'm happy we finally made this happen.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I've been curious, and the fact that you're coming from Ottawa, I have good memories. One time, I have a 4 a.m. Euro, Ottawa Euro memory way back, at least 20 years ago, driving, because sometimes I was working on the East Coast and it's faster to drive back through Canada for me, when I'm living in Minnesota or Wisconsin. So I have some Ottawa memories. That's a cool place.
Absolutely. So we're obviously going to get into Solar Opposites, which I was telling you before we started. I love that show. That show just makes me happy. It's so funny.
It's
Jessie
fun
is funny.
to be on.
It's fun. It's a fun show. Let's just keep it at that.
Yeah. And I was just saying before we started, it's just like good vibes to when the cast members are together, even though some things are recorded in duets, but when we are together, we all are happy to see each other. And it's not the case with every show. So there's actually genuine happiness making the show. So that's good.
Absolutely. I want to go back a little bit though, because I said it in my intro, and for people that kind of follow you and you kind of give it away in your handle. I mean, your handle is Mary Mack Comedy. You're a comedian. You do the comedy. You make people laugh. Yeah. When did you know that making people laugh was something you wanted to do?
Oh, it took forever to find that out, but I have my background in music, and I'm a woodwind player. So I had moved down to Nashville to go to grad school, and I started up a polka band because my upbringing is in Minnesota and Wisconsin, and that's a big cultural thing is polka bands. So I started one up there, and we do shows, and we were pretty bad. And so I talked a lot. I stalled for time. And so gradually the people said, we like the talking a lot better than the music, which is no band ever wants to hear that. But it caused me to start writing and kind of on a dare go up on an open mic for comedy. And then I was hooked. Ever since then, I was hooked.
It pushed you almost. It was like a pushing motion.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. And so, I mean, probably a long list, but like, what can you tell us about the life of a comedian that we might not know about? Because we know about the grind. Well, like, that's the thing, Mary. We know about the grind. I feel like everyone knows about the grind. Everyone knows about the start, the shows. I mean, anyone who's watched like Seinfeld also knows the grind of like the late night shows spot by spot. You know what I mean? Right. Anything you could say that we might not know?
That's a great question. Nobody's ever asked me that question.
Misconceptions, maybe?
Gosh, that's really good. I would say I think here's a misconception. Comedians are a lot more normal than people think they are. That's like, if people knew how boring comedians were in their daily lives, that would probably be detrimental to the attendance at shows.
Is there a misconception too that a lot of people, because you see it with a lot of actors too, there are some of my friends that are in some of these big shows that play these really big energetic characters.
Oh yeah.
But they're not like that in real life.
Oh yeah.
Is that like that in comedy too?
I see some of that. I see less and less because I see comedy I started about 18 years ago, and it's it's veering. It's not so much like character based where it's like, oh, you have to come up with a persona. More and more people are just themselves now, but there are people like who have this stage act. Yeah, they're and then they're not like that in real life. I'm trying to think of some examples, but it's fading. I feel like it's fading, and people are just more encouraged to be themselves. I can think Emo Phillips
Yeah.
is one that still has a little bit of his stage persona, but he's also a pretty interesting guy behind the scenes.
Oh, absolutely.
But we're all not as exciting as we get to condense our life into 1 hour, and tell people about it. And so we pick the best things to talk about, and then we're boring after that.
Well, here's the thing, like, this is no gimmick or shtick. Like, this is me. You know what I mean? I am Greek, Italian, and Irish. So I got the hand gestures and the energy.
Nice.
So this is what it is. This is not like
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. But it's interesting. I remember, like, from time to time I will have comedians on where we're just talking about like their comedy for like 25 minutes. Like, obviously all the guests I've had on like do like stand-up comedy and then do like other things. So for example, like Jamie Kennedy's been on the show. We talked about his stand-up and all his movies. And then Brett Ernst was recently on the show, and he's also like in Cobra Kai. But like, I think the interesting misconception before we move on to Solar Opposites, because I want to talk about that, is like people think also there's a lot of like there is a lot of improv and a lot of like off cuff, but like people think that you're just going up there and like winging it for like 25 minutes. Like, it's hard.
I just got done doing a show, like a digital show with the Booker of Conan, where he's going back. It's called The Setup. You should have him on. But it's called The Setup, and he talks about basically forming your set, one of your sets you have done on his show that he's booked you for, and just the months that go into doing it, and then you formulate all this and you get it all just right, and then the goal is to make it appear so fresh and off the cuff while you're doing it, and yeah, it's kind of insane. Where if you think about it, you in comedy, you don't want people to know how hard you worked. Otherwise, it'll ruin everything. So yeah, it's a lot of trial and error, a lot of standing there waiting for your stage time, but it's kind of worth it because I really love writing and I really enjoy performing. And I rewrite, like I do the lines they give me for Jesse in Solar Opposites, and then I'm like, can I do it this way? And then I give them like 3 lines that I'll make up that I'm like, what would be good here? And they're so kind that they let me do it. I mean, that's really cool that I get to do that improv there.
There's like, with Solar Opposites, so that's what we're here to talk about. Season 2 is going to be dropping on Hulu on March 26th. Yeah. It's exciting. It's great. People love the first season.
I'm somewhat employed. It's exciting because there's no live stand-up. There's some, but it's like, oh, do you want to play for 10 people? And
I'm wondering if you have the same, because like you're different because you're doing the voices. You're kind of on the other side, right? Like we're watching it. You're also gonna can watch it, but you did it. You know what I mean? But there's like a charm with this show too. There's something charming about Solar Opposites. Do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah, it's that whole family element where you're watching them become a family. It's like watching an 80s sitcom, and we're that's what I really like about the show. I mean, the relationships, and they explore different relationships in the second season and pairing different characters, and just even in the wall, there's scenes that occur in the kids' walls, and they're definitely exploring new relationships in that sub story.
I remember the big thing was one of my buddies who's a really big Rick and Morty fan. He loves Rick and Morty. You know, we get this, there's press release that season, like this new show, Solar Opposites, creators of Rick and Morty is coming out, right? The concept and everything. And everyone's kind of like, oh, I'm sold. You know, Justin Roiland's amazing. You know, we're going to watch it. You know what I mean? But then you watch it and then you're just kind of like, I'm not just watching this because this is the creator of Rick and Morty. Like, I'm watching this because this is just a really good animated sitcom, like you said. You know what I mean?
You know what, and that's interesting you say that, because when I'm watching it, I forget that I'm in it. And I'm just like, I'm just watching it for entertainment. Like, I don't even think, oh, that's me. I'm just watching it and I'm hooked into the lives of these aliens and what's going to happen next. And it gets so dark sometimes, but it's just so funny the way they do it.
You know what's a good word to describe Solar Opposites? And you're going to be like, okay, keep going, because it might not hit you right away, but I'll explain. It's a big show. It's big. And I'll tell you what I mean by that, okay? Hear me out.
Yeah.
It's like when you're watching it, there's big language. When you're watching it, there's big kind of things that happen. Spaceships, people like there's cinematic. It's big.
Yeah.
It's not like it's a big scale. It's big scale comedy. You know what I mean?
It is. It's like, yeah, you're right. It's you know, that's really insightful because it's big, and then it's also like space-wise, object-wise, it also goes down to the tiniest, smallest things. So yeah, they cover the range of life. Actually,
was there a moment when you were doing season 1? So I want to know. I want 2-part question, Mary. So I want to know a moment when you were, whether season 1 or 2, probably in season 1 because that's when it all started. But I want to know when you we're like, wow, we have something cool here. This is awesome. Like when you guys were doing it together or anything. Like when did it hit you? And then when did it hit you that, you know, you guys had, it was probably when it got renewed for season 2, but was there like a fan reaction or something that kind of was like, wow, we're doing something right? Like something like that?
Oh, okay. The first time where I was like, wow, we're really doing something cool is, we were doing our panel in July 2019, before we were all, you know, shut down or not quarantine, just shelter in place or whatever. We were doing a panel at the San Francisco Comic-Con, and they showed an animatic. So just some coloring in, but mostly just sketches of a scene. And I watched it as I was on stage for the panel. I got to see that for the first time. And I was like, wow, that's really good. And like, I had that realization as we're like answering questions from the audience. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. I'd watch that. And then I thought of another moment.
Like when you guys were doing it, like when you and Justin and Sean and Thomas, is there anything like that happened where you guys were just talking and be like, wow, like we're having so much fun, or wow, like people are really excited about this?
Yeah, I mean, just seeing all of Justin and Mike McMahon, the other creator, seeing all their fans at the Comic-Con was pretty cool. And we've been apart a lot because of COVID, but I thought of another moment where I was like, oh yeah, that was awesome. But it left me, I'm doing too many things today, so my brain isn't very clear. Oh yeah, if it comes back, I'll jump in. But that was when the first time I realized it was like, oh, this is a real show.
So I gotta do this, especially the fact that you're a comedian. I kind of regret what I'm about to do, but it's kind of something you said like you didn't have a chance to kind of take a look at my show, but this is something I do from time to time, and it's fitting because you are a comedian. So are you a fan of the dad jokes? Do you like the dad jokes? Okay. So I happen to be a dad joke connoisseur, which means I have them rapid fire. Like, Mary, now, a lot of these are we recycled? I need to get new material, but
that's
it's like,
all right.
Like, did you hear
Bob Hope it.
Did you hear about the kidnapping?
No.
It's okay. He woke up.
You always get those before. You always get those, and then you're like, no, and then you're like, why did I fall for that? I know the answer.
Why shouldn't you trust stairs?
Why?
They're always up to something. Or, I used to work I was telling you, I used to work at the shoe factory. But Mary, I quit because it was so soul destroying.
Okay, I got 2 dad jokes.
Oh, great.
How do you catch a unique rabbit?
How?
Unique up on them. So these are jokes you could never tell in your comedy set, but they're like a guilty pleasure. So okay, what do you get when you cross 50 pigs and 50 deer?
What?
You get $100,000. You're rich.
Oh my God.
You picked the wrong woman to dad joke with.
I was gonna tell you that joke about construction, but I'm still working on it, unfortunately.
Okay. I didn't write those jokes. Oh God, that you just got me. That was really good and subtle. I'm still working on it. But I didn't write my jokes.
I don't know. I don't write these. These are from a calendar.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I forgot who told me. Actually, my dad told me one of those.
So I have to do one more before we wrap up because you're a musician. What did the drummer name her 3 daughters?
Oh, sis boom. I don't know.
And a 1, and a 2, and a 1, 2.
That's great.
No, there's so many good ones. So obviously the answer to this question, I ask this question a lot because I get really cool answers about it because people get to kind of talk about the craft and the project a lot, is so solar opposites. The obvious answer to the question, what do you hope people get out of solar opposites, is you hope they enjoy it. You hope they laugh, you know what I mean? But more specifically, if you dive into it, Mary, like what can you tell me about, like, what do you hope people get out of watching solar opposites?
That's a great question. And I think what I get out of it as a viewer, even though I'm acting in it, I still think, I have like my friends, these people, like we're not necessarily the children of the 2 older replicants. We're just this unit that got stuck together. And it's like, your family is who you make it. And some of my friends are more my family than my family. So it's kind of like, wow, I didn't appreciate those relationships as much before I started really thinking about, because I'm always thinking about backstory, the basis of the script. And I'm like, these, even if they weren't meant to be a family, they're really a family.
Yeah.
In the original plans of Schlorp, these replicants wouldn't necessarily be with the older ones.
That's true.
Their whole life. So it's like your family is what you make it.
Absolutely. The concept of it, I'm sure this has got brought up before, but like Third Rock from the Sun was like one of my favorite sitcoms growing up.
Yeah.
And it kind of has that. That's like basically the same concept.
You know what? I have to tell you something, and thank you for bringing up Third Rock from the Sun, is I've only seen a clip, and I have to put that on my watch list. All these months of pandemic,
So
and I
funny.
still haven't watched it. That, and then
So was it brought up between the cast though, that like the concept?
No.
Oh, never?
Never.
Because
But
that's the whole
good.
point, right? Like they're like aliens from another planet. They have disguises, so they look like humans. But yeah, it's pretty funny.
I've always wanted to stream that, and I still haven't. And so now I'm like, oh yeah, that'll be my next show.
There's some good laughs in that. It's really good. Well, Mary, thank you so much for coming on Popternative.
Thank you for having me. And I love Canada. My mother-in-law's Canadian. She's a great woman. So I wish you all the luck in your COVID recovery up there, and I hope everything's cool.
I appreciate that. You too. And Solar Opposites Season 2, March 26th on Hulu.
Thanks, Petey.
Well, this has been Popternative. Where can people follow you on social media to keep up to date with everything?
Oh, I'm easy. It's Mary Mack, M-A-C-K, comedy on everything. Website, everything. Instagram. I do a Thursday Instagram podcast. It's just everything Mary Mack comedy. Thank you so much.
Amazing. Well, it's just been Popternative. YouTube.com/Popternative for previous episodes. Be sure to check out Solar Opposites. Season 2 is going to be dropping on Hulu March 26th. And Mary does the voice of Jesse. Until next time, this is Mary Mack and PD Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.